Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. Today, very exciting, I am test driving with you the 2019 Chevrolet Silverado. It's all new from the ground up. It's a truck frankly, I've been looking very much forward to test driving because this is actually my first chance to sit in and drive this truck for the first time in the flesh. And this one's also quite interesting because this is the 2.7T. So I'm going to show it to you inside now. We're going to take it for a drive-in. I'm going to tell you what I really think. Before we get out on the test drive, let's talk about styling just a bit because there's always a lot to talk about, especially with something like this that's all new from the ground up. The first thing I want to point out is we have the RST, which is somewhere right around the mid-grade of the Chevrolet lineup, and it has a number of styling cues that make it unique. And that's really the thing to point out here is if you don't like the way this Chevy truck looks, go pick another trim grade. Just like the new 2019 Ram, every trim grade has its own face and apparatus and the way it looks. The RST has body color treatment there. I like it. This is actually one of my favorites of the bunch. And with the RST come LED headlights, LED fog lights, and to me it just has a nice monochromatic sporty look, and that's the point. RST, T for truck. One thing that's interesting is down there on the side there's a little bit of a slit that looks like jowls. If you look closely in there, you'll see that you can actually see daylight through that. That's actually an air curtain device, something that we're seeing almost on all the new vehicles right now, and air goes through there and it gets channeled out into the wheel well around the tires. And so basically what that does is it takes pressure out of the front of the truck as it's pushing through the wind, and it channels it out around the wheels so they don't create quite as much turbulence. It's science, real science, kind of like, I don't know, climate change or something like that. Nonetheless, the styling, very extroverted, right? A lot of people think this looks like crap. They think it looks like some kind of a Gobotron transformer device. I actually happen to like it. When I first saw it, it didn't cotton too well with me, but I'm starting to really see a lot of masculinity in it, for lack of a better way of putting it, but I'm really getting off into the weeds. The wheels on this one, 18-inch alloys. Obviously, you can go up to 22s on this truck. This has just a nice tire wheel combination that really helps us out with the handling out in the desert here, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. Also on this one, optional running boards. These are not motorized, just standard running boards. I like them. They're rubbery, they're grippy. With my boots here, I don't have to worry about them slipping off when they're wet. And this also has some detail in the mirrors, which I kind of like. In this color, I think this is pretty good looking, at least from this angle. Now I know what you're thinking, you're already noticing it. Sam didn't even clean the truck. Look at it, it's filthy. Well, bottom line is this is a truck. I like to shoot my trucks dirty. Dirty. Trucks are dirty. There. So, back here, different look. I like the way it looks back here as well. A lot of little details going on in this truck, and that's something that I really picked up on having owned a couple generations ago Chevrolet. It's not the smooth slab-sided things that they used to be. There's a lot of shaping going on in this rear quarter. Up on the roof, check that out. Look at what's going on with the roof, how detailed that is. A lot of little ridges, a lot of little streamlined detail. It's detail, and actually what I'm told that is for, that really helps out with not only the structure, because it's got some creases in there, and it's really having to do with aerodynamics. Help keeps that air traveling over the top of the cab in a little bit more of a controlled manner. The tailgate on this is also something quite cool. This one has a power release. Now there's also a power tailgate option, but this one just has a power release. Now that we got that cool little thing out of the way, here's another thing I like that Chevrolet offers is the step bumper. I really think that's so much better a solution than Ford has with their man step that comes out of the tailgate. It's there. You don't have to fumble, do anything with it. It's just there when you need it. You hop up, and here you are, king of the world. Okay, that's kind of lame. This is a nice box too. It's actually larger than before. There's more space between the wheel wells. Very cool though. This particular truck has a spray-on bed liner, but look at the hooks and the lighting. We've got LED lighting, which is fast becoming sort of an expected norm in this class, but also 4 sets of 3 hooks. I've got 3 hooks, 3 hooks, 3 hooks, 3 hooks for a total of a dozen hooks back here, and even such a tiny little bed. You've also got an AC outlet down there. That with the dozen hooks, how can you go wrong? If you look around this interior, this cabin, you're going to find that if you sat in Chevrolets before, this looks very familiar. It's evolutionary, unlike the exterior, which is revolutionary. What you're going to find in here is something that looks very much at home if you've been in this truck before in the previous generations. The design is actually very much the same. You've got the dual glove box, which I find to be a very nice feature in the Chevrolet and the GMC. I like that feature in this truck, and there's a lot of storage in here. The center console, it's very simple in its design, not overly wrought with a lot of weird features like some of the brands out there. It's simple to look at, simple to use, that's it. A lot of storage down in this particular box. Again, just a very simple design, and there's a lot of power ports in here. I've got USB ports and an auxiliary port here, USB ports here, along with all the other switches that you're going to need for this truck. Everything in one central spot. It's a very simple, down to business layout. I love that. You don't ever have to really search for anything here. And as I look forward at this instrument cluster, I like this design. 4 dials across and 2 big dials with a center screen for all the information that you might customize. And the quality materials in here, also a very good thing. I have found that Chevrolet and GM trucks in the past have sort of offered a middle ground when it comes to quality. Better than Ford, I think, and the new Ram's very good in terms of its interior quality, and I think we're at least at parity there. The fit and finish, the quality, the touch of materials, and how consistent everything is. That's very important. All the materials in here are of an equal quality. Ford, you tend to have really high quality materials here and there, and then cheap stuff next to it, and you can see the difference, feel the difference. Here, everything looks like it's made by the same company, and I love that. These seats are very comfortable. This has an option package on it which gives it leather seats and a number of other niceties in here. And these seats are very comfortable, as I said. They're very supportive. They're firm seats. They're not cushy like soft couch cushion seats. They're power operated. They do have heating elements in them. With that, I've got climate control, and I've got this nice infotainment system here with another package that, again, evolutionary. There's nothing brand new and whiz-bang to report here, in my opinion, with this infotainment system. It just works. It's simple and it works, and you have pretty much the full feature boat. Now, I don't have all the way up into the high-end sound system here, nor do I have navigation, but I'm happy with what it does have: Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. And the best part about it is there's a lot of space here. This cab did get slightly larger with this redesign. Plenty of space above my cowboy hat, like a good 5-6 inches, and I'm about 5'9", so I could be a much bigger guy with a cowboy hat and still fit here. When it comes to fitting here, the back seat's a little bit of a different story. This is the double cab, not the full-size crew cab. So what that means is that not that many generations ago, these doors either didn't exist on the back or they opened outward. We've got actually 4 standard opening doors, but they are smaller doors because this is the double cab, the mid-size cab. Thus, my space back here is a little more truncated, and so this is really a cab that you get if you have occasional passengers back here, or perhaps those are kids that are back here for the most part. As you can see, a full-size adult can fit back here, but if I were that larger guy that I was referencing up front, I might not be so comfortable back here. But the good news is the seating position is nice and high. These seat cushions do fold up so that you can have ample space back here for your gear or boxes you might get at the big store, the big box store. And vents. Chevrolet, thank you for putting vents in the back of the cab for first time in a long time, or maybe ever. I like that here in Arizona with our summers. Again, lots of ports, USB ports, a 12-volt outlet. If you've got people back here, kids with devices, we're done. I mean, it's all good. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with this interior. The quality is good, the design is evolutionary, and it has a lot of little things that make it Chevrolet yet make it unique at the same time. All right, folks, now it's time to take a drive, see what this thing's all about. So, big elephant in the room, 4-cylinder engine in a full-size pickup truck. That's like a major first, and really that's what my big question about this thing was when it first showed up, was what's it gonna drive like? What's a 4-cylinder full-size pickup truck gonna drive like? Well, to the engine, 2.7 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, all new engine by Chevrolet, designed to be a truck engine, so it's not a car engine converted. This is a very tough engine with forged internals, a big beefy block, and it's got a lot of things going on. It's got active fuel management. It can go back to 2 cylinders out of 4. That's also a big major first out there in the truck market. It can run on 2 cylinders to save fuel. So the whole concept here is that it's powerful and it's fuel efficient. 310 horsepower, 348 pound-feet of torque. That's what V8s used to make not that long ago. So my question becomes, how does it go? And 60. Well, the first thing you might have noticed if you caught it was the auto start-stop system kicked in there just as I stopped and started talking, and when I let off the fuel it started it back up again. This thing has auto start-stop, which I hate. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. But what are you gonna do? Almost all vehicles have that now, but to the point. This thing actually has more than adequate power. Again, this thing has the power that V8s used to have, so that's not an issue here. I think what's going to be an issue for anyone, if it's going to be an issue, is the fact that you got a full-size truck that has a 4-cylinder sound coming out of it. It's not a bad sound, it's just not what you might be used to under the hood of a full-size American pickup truck. If you can get past that, if you can get psychologically over that hump, this is actually a nice powertrain to have in a full-size truck. I spent a week with it. I've actually been pretty impressed, I gotta say. It takes getting used to. And the auto start-stop system, of course, you can turn it off in this, thank goodness. But with this 8-speed automatic transmission, I found that it actually is a pretty pleasant powertrain for everyday driving. I haven't been disappointed at all. I was able to psychologically get over the idea of the 4-cylinder engine in the full-size truck, because let's face it, it's coming in some of the other brands eventually. It's just not that terrible a thing. Now granted, if you need a V8, if you need more power, there's lots of other options. Cattle guard. So you're not going to be left without. This isn't going to be forced on you. It is the base engine in some of the Silverado models, and the V6, if that's the base engine you want, still also available in others. So it's interesting. It's really interesting, and in fact, if I were buying a Silverado, I might consider this engine because it really is no disappointment whatsoever to me. Fuel economy, now that really is the point, isn't it? 20 mpg city, 23 mpg highway, EPA, those are the numbers, 21 combined. That's what the EPA tells us. And what I got with this week is 20 mpg combined. Now I did a lot of city driving where I actually saw around 19 until I got on the freeway for a little bit, and then I got up to about 20. So not quite what the sticker promised, but I have the air conditioner on 100% of the time. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. It's hot. So that's where I am on this powertrain. Not a disappointment, kind of interesting. You just got to get over the sound. That's it. On the topic of ride and handling, the first thing to really point out here is, like all new trucks lately, when they redesign them from the ground up, they get a new frame that's a million times stiffer. That's not necessarily the right metric, but it's a lot stiffer than the old one, more high-strength steel. And they've also made it to be lighter. So stiffer, lighter, so that this truck is up to 450 pounds lighter overall. Out here on my favorite back road, this is a roughly paved road, so this doesn't give me that perfectly smooth, quiet ride. This is a perfect road for testing chassis. And so the first thing I'm noticing is that I don't have a lot of wind noise. It is very quiet here, and it's got a stiff suspension, as I've come to expect with Chevrolet. And with this stiff chassis, what I get is a little bit of jitteriness. I've got a medium tire and wheel combination here, so it has a pretty good level of grip here on the highway. That's my first impression. Around town, out here on the smooth pavement, it drives just like any other Chevrolet truck. It's not going to be dramatically different. The real test of all trucks, though, is off the pavement. I love taking a truck or an SUV out on the washboard road because, well, this vibrating ribbed surface. It's a great way to see how well this thing's put together. How well did they tune the suspension? How stiff is the chassis? Is it well put together? Is the body structure tight? Is the trim in here put together well? It's the test, man. What I'm finding out here is that, like other Chevrolets that I've tested on this road, specifically GM trucks, always have had sort of a high tensile, jittery kind of persona out here, and this truck does too. The DNA has come through. Now that can be good or bad depending on how you look at it. If you live Chevrolet, love Chevrolet, you're not going to be put aside by this truck because it's everything you've always known. This frame does feel stiffer. I can feel it's fighting the bumps and the vibrations a little more, but I think what's happening is they're getting transmitted into this lighter body structure because I'm getting a lot of squeaks and rattles in the interior. The dash is bouncing up and down a little bit, and these doors are sort of moving around in their door frames as this thing flexes and shakes. So I'm getting jitters and shakes. That's just what's happening. Cows. Whoa, look at that. Bull. Cows. There's one, two bulls, 2 cows. Oh, and even more. There's a bull and a cow over there. It's the desert, man. Now it's time to take it on the trail. On a tighter little trail that's a little more like you might find out on a farm or, well, in the desert. Tighter, bumpier. Woo! I love doing this. I can live out here. Actually, I did once. You can never keep your cars clean when you live on a dirt road. That's one thing you got to keep in mind before you ever buy, but I'm getting off into the weeds. Not literally. Out here, what I've noticed with this truck is that sort of that jitteriness I talked about on the washboard road does continue, but this suspension is not quite as stiff as the last Silverado I drove out here, but it is a little bit stiffer and a little bit more bouncy than the 2019 Ram, which that truck was a lot more soft and rubbery feeling on this particular trail. It's very maneuverable. The only thing I'd point to is that the damping on the front suspension does give me a little bit of a bouncy front end, whereas in the back it's stiff as a board. So not a big balance between front and rear. Now granted, I get it, it's a truck, it's meant to be for work, but other manufacturers managed to create a better balance in terms of what the front and rear suspension feel like. But they've done a lot to improve this, and it definitely feels a little bit lighter. That goes without saying. Well, I just said it. There you go. That's it for handling. All right, my friends, there you have it for my test drive of the 2019 Chevrolet Silverado 2.7T. What are my 3 key takeaways? Well, you've probably already gotten that by now, but let's look at them. First one is this 4-cylinder engine. I was very fascinated to find out what it feels like to drive a full-size American pickup truck with a 4-cylinder, a 4-banger under the hood. It's not so bad. You know, once you get over the psychological train wreck of that idea, it works. You know, it's got plenty of power, it's efficient, it works very well with this transmission. The auto start stop system sucks, but it doesn't matter what motor that's with. It's going to be in almost any vehicle you get now, at least in a full-size truck with very few exceptions. It's an engine that's efficient, and quite honestly, I think you're going to see this engine in a lot more things going down the road. I think the Colorado, GMC Canyon will eventually get it. I think the other brands will eventually end up doing something like this. And 2.7 liters, you know, that's a pretty big 4-cylinder. So it works, I think. Not really that big a deal. Just get used to it. Once you do, it's fine. The next thing, Chevrolet DNA. I think Chevrolet's done a great job of completely reinventing the wheel here, yet bringing across everything that the brand has, everything it's been. So if you're a Chevy guy, you came out of mom's womb driving a Chevrolet pickup and you'll never change, you're gonna like this truck because it drives like a Chevy, it smells like a Chevy, and once you get used to this new styling, frankly, it looks like one. And they've just done a good job to making it all new yet very comfortable and the same. And I say that having owned Chevy trucks myself, driven lots of them. So, you know, I felt very much at home behind the wheel of this truck going, yeah, this is the same old thing I'm used to. And we talked about that a little bit on the drive, both good and bad. Third thing, competitiveness. Now, full-size trucks, very competitive, right? Ford's got everything new all the time, best-selling whatever, turbo, EcoBoost, you know, backup trailer, pro, camera, whatever. Ram, they've got air suspensions, they've got Hemis, they've got all this stuff that they really try to set their vehicles apart with. Chevrolet also has offered up a lot of things that make them unique. Just little things that make living quite easy, like those step bumpers. You know, that's very good. That's a hell of a lot easier to use, in my opinion, than Ford's little man step thing they have sticking out of the tailgate. You got to screw with that and make it happen, where here you just step up and you're done. I love it. And just a lot of little features that make Chevrolet what it is, a double glove box, things like that. And offering new things like this new turbo engine. I think this structure with its light weighting in terms of the multi-metals that they're using doesn't go all the way like Ford did with aluminum, but that's a good thing because it doesn't feel as flimsy as the F-150 does out here in the trail, in my opinion. I'm not sure Ford's going to want to hear that, but it feels a little more solid than the Ford pickups do, in my opinion, because of that. So they've done a good job in putting their best foot forward, I think. So those are my 3 key takeaways for the 2019 Chevrolet Silverado. Now, if you want to see my latest test drive, click right there on the square. You want to see more of it all the time, click down there and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Either way, stay tuned.